facing your partner's relapse in sexual addiction can definitely feel isolating and just so overwhelming. I'm sure if you're experiencing this right now, you feel all of the emotions all at the same time. You have no idea what to do, and you're just really not sure where to go. In this video, I want to talk about some practical ways to cope and take care of yourself whenever you're dealing with situations like these. So the first thing I got to get to is, what is relapse, and what does that actually look like? This is a hard statement to say, but relapse is part of recovery. It's not the goal, but it is definitely part of recovery. And it doesn't necessarily mean that all progress is lost. There are different levels of relapse. And so, you don't have to necessarily be the one to try to figure out what level it's on, but it is important to consider that there are different levels of relapse. And so, it's also important to remember that recovery is not linear. Sometimes it does come in waves, and you definitely, I'm sure, feel like you're on a roller coaster. But it's important how you respond, how the addict responds, how you respond to them, and then also how you respond together, if you are in a relationship. So if you shift your focus through a lot of work, right? But if you shift your focus on learning how to foster just a healthier environment for both of you to thrive, that's what makes the big difference. But how do you even get there, right? Because that's the end goal. But what do you do with all of the emotions that are coming up? Well, the next point is that you're definitely valid for feeling all the things you're feeling. You feel betrayed. Your trust is broken, all of the things. And so I think it's really important to have an outlet for that, right? So journaling is definitely one of the things that can be helpful, talking to trusted friends, and making sure that you're really processing in therapy. I'm a huge advocate for therapy, being a therapist. So I definitely think that it's important for not only the addict to be in therapy, but also for the partner to be in therapy as well, with someone who's trained with working with betrayal trauma. So my next point is, you have to set boundaries. And I think it's important to note that boundaries are one of the things that, it's not to punish your partner. It's to really be on the same page so that you both can move forward. It's to make sure that you set your limits and expectations so that your boundaries don't get crossed. It's not punishment, so you're setting expectations for what you need from each other, and so if those need to be a little bit more strict after a relapse, then that's absolutely okay, and then you maybe reassess later on. But, I think it comes down to being able to identify what those are and then be able to communicate what those are. So if you are going to therapy, then that would be a great place to process what your boundaries need to be, how those need to change, and maybe when you need to reassess those. And so I think that's such a thing for each person to address, because those look so different for everyone. But definitely pay attention to what are your boundaries and maybe what needs to shift. And you need to look at those frequently and sort of get an idea about what needs to change, And so the next point is, I think it's important to lean on a really healthy support environment, right? So going to maybe S-Anon meetings, those are wonderful. They have those online, and they also have them in person. You can check on their website to see where your closest one may be. But other different resources, obviously therapy, maybe if you're involved in church, that may be trusted church friends and clergy. And so it's really important to remember, though, that sometimes people are going to be biased. So if you're talking to your best friend, they may be biased. It doesn't mean to not talk to them. It just means that you need to have more than one outlet. It can get really intense sometimes with, friends who you're talking to on a regular basis. Maybe they have their own story. Projections happen, so you have to be really careful, with who you're entrusting certain information to, but not keeping it to yourself, because keeping it to yourself is one of those things that I could probably make another video on in the future. But definitely important to really surround yourself with healthy people that can lift you up. So one of the biggest things for this video that I wanted to communicate is, you have to prioritize your own healing. Your partner's struggle does not define you. You have your own healing journey, and it's really essential to focus on your well-being independently of theirs. That doesn't mean to not care. It just means you have to focus on yourself. So you got to focus on things that bring you joy, maybe old hobbies, exercise, creative projects, different things that may bring a sense of normalcy. Even if it doesn't seem like it on the front end, it's still good to do those things so that you can start to get to a sense of normalcy, and make sure you're practicing some self-care. Self-care, I think that there's like big acts of self-care, and then there's also smaller acts of self-care. It's the things that take maybe 2-3 minutes on a daily basis that sometimes mean the most. So I just want to say that you deserve to find happiness regardless of where your partner is. And so, if you focus on yourself, usually there is a trickle effect that does trickle into your partner. Doesn't mean that you working on yourself is going to, get them in the right place. That may not happen. I don't know. That's different literally for every single person. But, if you are communicating in a healthy way and your partner, the addict, is focused on getting therapy, and I think it definitely can be a positive effect if you're going to be consistent and work on yourself too. It's not an easy road. And so I want to share a story with you about Hannah. And, Hannah had been in a relationship for over 10 years and then found out about her partner's sexual addiction. And it was just one of those things. She felt isolated, alone, all of the feelings, and just kept finding out information. Went through staggered disclosure of, details, and then more details, and then more details, and so she really tried on the front end to fix and be that support person, but then she found out that that just wasn't realistic. After multiple relapses, she just said, I have enough. I can't. And so she set boundaries and was really persistent with them. She went to therapy. She started doing everything. She reconnected with her hobbies, and she put herself first. And so through this, her partner came around and started to become consistent with therapy, and then ended up getting to the place where, he was working on himself, and then they ended up going to couples counseling, and everything went through a lot of work. Things started to turn around. So, the whole point with that story is you never know necessarily what's going to happen in the future, but all you can know for sure is that you can control what happens with yourself. So if you work on your own recovery, you can definitely continue to hope for the best, and, things may continue to shift. That's not the story for everyone, so if that's not your story, then, that I definitely feel for you. And then you have to maybe have some different conversations, and then you go through a really tough time, and then you may not stay together, but you still, even in that, it's not your fault. No, but there's definitely still a lot of recovery for you to even do as well. Look, relapse is painful. It's tough. This is a hard thing to talk about. And, I may have struggled a little bit in this video because there's so many different circumstances when it comes to relapse. And I think there's just a lot of different opinions and also just overwhelming situations that kind of happen, but, I just want to hone in on the point that it doesn't mean that there's the end of hope. You have to set the boundaries. You have to prioritize yourself, and you have to do those things whether you stay in the relationship or not. So look, if you like this video and maybe you want to see more similar to this, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I would love to, do more content like this with some pretty specific topics. Just remember, another caveat here. I absolutely do not intend this as therapy for anyone. This is just educational. I'm just sharing my thoughts, just from experience of things that I've worked with. So look, if you relate to this, let me know. Would love to know what your thoughts are in the comments. And I really just hope this helps someone. So remember, click that like button, and I hope to see you on the next one.